Welcome to The Reins of Leadership, the podcast dedicated to helping you lead with presence and influence with trust. I'm your host, Marinda Smith, business leadership strategist, sharing actionable insights on mindset, EQ, and energy uniquely illuminated by wisdom gained alongside my equine partners. Hello and welcome to The Reins of Leadership. Today I am interviewing the amazing Angela Hodgson. Now, Angela is amazing in my mind because she has worked for nearly 9 years at Bentley Motors. So yes, you heard me right. That is Bentley Motors, where you have Porsche, Bugatti, Audi and VW. So I'm really excited to hear her stories on that. And now Angela has her own business. So we're going to delve into her own business and the leadership takings she has brought with her from Bentley Motors. Welcome, Angela.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here today.
So first of all, I'd really love to hear your story around Bentley Motors. What excited you to be there for 9 years?
I absolutely loved being part of Bentley. It's such an amazing brand with incredible products, amazing people, so much opportunity. I traveled the world. I had a team based all over the world. I was on business class flights, staying in amazing hotels, interacting with all these high net worth individuals, part of something that was absolutely amazing as a game changer of launching the very first luxury SUV. Bringing that car to market was one of the highlights of my career. Something so different, so complex, so exciting. It was just such an incredible thing to be part of. So I loved the time at Bentley, and it came from a starting during my sandwich year in my degree. Had a role in automotive in Jaguar Land Rover and Ford. So I've got a bit of a passion and a bug for the automotive industry in my early 20s. And then I was excited to kind of return to that in my later 20s.
That was one of my questions I wanted to ask you. Why automotive? So thank you for bringing that up. So tell me your path. You started at the bottom, I imagine, or in a lower role, and then you moved up, or how did you go through?
So if I take it back to Ford and Jaguar, I left there as part of my internship. I did just over 15 months there, went back, finished my degree. Then I did a graduate role, excuse me, for a couple of years as a business improvement manager in a housing association. I got offered a head of role, which was quite a senior position, but it was at a time when I thought, I'm not sure I just want to stay in this one company doing this one thing. Housing wasn't something that really lit me up or excited me. It was just a role and an opportunity. So I think I was 23 or 24, 23, I think I was at the time. And I thought, I'm going to start my own business. So I started my own business. I got a contract with a company for 8 weeks, and I thought I'm going to make more in that 8 weeks than I'm going to make in the 1 year kind of salary. So I made the jump, much to the horror of my very structured and stable husband. Made this jump. I did that for 6 years, had lots of different clients doing business improvement type activities, had a baby. And then it was all a bit hard because then it was, I want to be off from a child. I don't really want to have to go back to work. I don't know when I'm going to get the contract. So if I get offered something, I'm going to have to go back. So I thought, I'm going to just stay off for 6 months and then make a decision at the end. And then at the end of that period, I got headhunted by Bentley and offered a role there. It was completely out the blue. They'd found me on LinkedIn as a match to this job that they had, which was a program manager. So I went in at a senior manager level. I already had that automotive background. I'd had lots of other industry experience by that stage. So that first role at Bentley was working in the transformation office. So it was working with senior leaders across Volkswagen, across Bentley, across the group, helping to define the 10-year strategy for Bentley Motors. So that was very transformational and exciting, being part of what's this change going to be for the company. So I did that for, I think that was just over 18 months. Then I got headhunted for another role in Bentley, which was leading on continuous improvement. So this was all the processes, the cost, the efficiency, the effectiveness, and created this program with my team called Grow Without Growing. And that was about growing the business without growing the headcount. And we created these communities and these improvement hubs, trained lots of people in the business around problem solving, continuous improvement skills, and really created a cultural shift and a movement towards that. And that was working with all the internal departments, so engineering, manufacturing, sales and marketing, the purchasing department. So it gave me a real breadth of knowledge across all functional areas. I did that for 2 years, and then I got positioned for another role. This was another promotion, which was the head of Global Retailer Academy. So this was now when I was outside the factory gates. This was working with all the retailers globally. So there was 273 retailers, there was 4,000 staff, and my department was responsible for all training globally. So the leadership development, the management development, the technical skills, the people skills, the commercial skills. So during my 9 years at Bentley, I actually started quite senior and then got to senior leader position within 3 years, I think it was.
Nice.
And then stayed at that senior leadership position for the next 6 years.
Fantastic. What an exciting journey that just listening to you, I'm like, oh, wow, that's such great experience. And so you've gone internally across many, many departments, and then
Yeah.
you've gone externally. So you're,
Mm-hmm.
with the retailers. So literally you've had this broad spectrum of
Mm-hmm.
experience that you've been bringing. And before we started to record, we were talking about your current business. So now
Mm-hmm.
take us through your current business. And now all the dots are connected for me, but for our listeners, maybe not so. So take me through your current business.
So there's a bit of a jump between the leaving Bentley and the current business, and they're very much aligned. Would it be okay if I explain the story of why I left Bentley and why I started it, or do you want me to just focus on the
So
business bit first?
I'd love you to connect that dot as to why you left first.
Um, Excuse me. So I had another baby whilst I was at Bentley. So there's 8 years between our children. I had another baby. I again thought I don't want to just have a baby, go back to work quite quickly. I want to take off as long as I possibly can. So I had actually 15 months off. I had 12 months maternity leave and then 3 months of accrued holiday that I'd accrued during that period of time. When I returned, it was very much a very, very different place to the one that I'd left. I had a different manager. There was a different board, lots of different board members. It was a different strategy, different direction. The culture had changed. It had become quite strong and direct and quite pressure and time pressured and complex. And lots of things have shifted over that 15-month period. And it was like a bit of a culture shock or a shock to the system, kind of returning to that. And at first, I chalked that up to I've been out of the business for a while. I've been in mum mode. I've been in singing very, nursery rhymes to my son, and now I'm back in the corporate world. It's going to be a transition. I then, after I'd been back from maternity leave for 2 months, I went on a big event to Barcelona because my department was responsible for launching new product to the retailers and training all of their staff. So we did this event in Barcelona. I had about 50 staff at the event. I had hundreds and hundreds of delegates flying in from literally all over the world to Barcelona. And then this massive crisis happened. So there was some political unrest in Barcelona, and that resulted in bombing. It resulted in fires. It resulted in people being literally kept inside the airport terminal. So I had staff that were stuck in the terminal with people with fires and bombs and guns trying to invade the airport. I had delegates in the air flying into the airport who were completely terrified about where they were going to go. How were we going to get those delegates out the airport to where we were? How were we going to keep the product safe and the people safe? And that was on me. I was accountable for that.
Wow.
And it felt like so much pressure. And I remember ringing back to the headquarters, so Bentley, and asking for support. And the answer that I got was, make sure you do a risk assessment, make sure you document every single decision you've made, because you're going to have to justify that, and make sure the product is safe. And I just felt this huge amount of pressure with all these eyes looking on me for decisions about what we were going to do, and feeling like I wasn't supported at all.
Yeah.
And that started to change how I felt, because it was very, very different to how I previously felt at Bentley.
Mm.
On top of that, I then started to have some personal issues. So just before I went to Barcelona, one of my very close friends had died. She was only 35. I was supposed to go to her funeral. I couldn't go to her funeral because I was stuck in Barcelona. So I couldn't go to the funeral. I had a lot of stress. My baby was at home. I was only supposed to be there for a week. I ended up being there for 2 weeks. Excuse me. And when I came back, I started to feel quite different. I then had lots of other pressure that was happening from lots of other, excuse me, one second. I find it a bit difficult to talk about, to be honest, because it's still a little bit triggering.
Yeah.
But there was lots of issues that was happening in the workplace, but also I had personal problems. So I've got 2 neurodiverse children. They were really struggling. And then COVID happened. So then you had a world change a couple of months after that. So at that time, I then had to make half my department redundant, which was very upsetting, very complex. I had all of that emotional unburden from everybody else. I felt accountable for that, but it was a decision by the corporate team. I just felt like I was out of control, and that anything I was trying to do to put things in place just wasn't working and wasn't stable. So I literally had a burnout. I had a bit of a breakdown. I was in a really bad place. I went to the doctors. I was really struggling to get out of bed, struggling to talk, struggling to function. I was off work for 6 weeks, and then I was actually furloughed. A lot of people at Bentley were furloughed, and I was furloughed for 8 weeks. So in total, that was like 14 weeks. Yeah. And over the period of furlough, it was sunshine. I was in the garden with the children. I wasn't working, obviously, because I was furloughed. I had so much free time, and I just started to feel so much better because there was just lots less complexity in my life. There was structure, there was routine. We couldn't go out anywhere because the world was closed. And actually, I rebuilt my own thought processes, my own coping mechanisms, my own direction and my own plan during that 8 weeks. And I decided I can't keep doing this anymore. I can't keep traveling the world, not seeing my children, having all that pressure. So I made the decision to leave. And the day that I went back, it was like serendipity. I went back and they announced voluntary redundancies. Fantastic. So then there was the opportunity, to apply to get voluntary redundancy. And I applied, and everyone was so shocked because they said they just never, ever thought I would be the type of person who would leave, because I was Bentley through and through. I had my career plan. I loved it there. I absolutely loved it there. That was me set for life. But everything changed. So I left the business, and when I left, I then decided I'm going to set my own business back up. It was still I hadn't ever properly closed it down. It was just dormant. So I set the business back up. It was quite a transition going from corporate to SME world. So there was a big of a kind of transition around that and what that looked like. But my whole focus then was helping businesses to grow without burning out. Because I've seen so many leaders in these smaller businesses in the retail network that I was responsible for burning out as Bentley retail leaders. I'd already worked in SMEs when I had my own business before I started Bentley. And I thought, I can make such a difference. I can take all this corporate knowledge and make it agile and make it meaningful for SMEs so they can grow and flourish without burning out. So that's the journey from Bentley to my own business.
Oh, that's amazing. And there was so much in that. But I want to go with the working with the SMEs and just because the reins of leadership is about that working from within. So it's that inner leadership. And so I'm suspecting that's what your business is about as well, because you're one of my guests. So tell me more about leading from within, from your perspective, and how you help your clients.
Leading from within is such an important piece. And what I do is give people the bravery and belief in their own version of leading from within, because leading from within is different for every single person. In terms of preference, capability, skill, behavior, attitude, experience, it's a different culmination for everybody. And some people look at other leaders and think, oh, I've got to be like them, or that business has grown and it's amazing because they're so direct and they tell it as it is. Oh, that's not me, and I don't know, can I do that? So they start to become these people that they're not. So they're not actually leading from within. So some of the things I do when I first start working with clients is I absolutely love using a behavioral tool called BELBIM. So it's a profiling tool, and it helps leaders to identify, yeah, that really is me. It's like you're inside my head. That's what most people say to me. But I use the 360 version. So you get feedback from lots of people you've worked with. It could be your line manager, it could be your peers, it could be people who work for you, suppliers, agencies, it could be people who mentor you. But when I use that, it helps them to know how to lead from within. It helps them to know, here's my sweet spot, here's my bundle of strengths, here's what I can do to really harness that, leverage that, and make a huge difference to me and my business. But it also helps them know the blind spots.
Mm.
Oh, I didn't know people thought that. Oh, I didn't know I did that. Oh, that makes so much sense. So I
Mm.
did a session last week with a client. I'd never met him before. It's the first time working with him. And at the end of the session, he said, I really understand now why I've had so many battles with so many people because I didn't have this insight. And actually, I needed to recognize that they have a valuable contribution of how they work. I didn't recognize the contribution. I just thought they were idiots. So I
Wow.
help people to change that viewpoint of not only themselves, but the teams that they work around.
Mm. How long do you work with your clients?
It changes. So for some clients I work with, I've got a few clients who I've worked with for a few years.
Okay.
And over that period of time, we've built up a lot of depth. We do a lot of things. So for those clients, it tends to be quite broad. So I'll write their strategy with them. I'll work with their leadership team to get their leadership capability up. I'll fix any dynamic issues where people aren't getting on or there's conflict or confusion on ways of working. I'll assess their culture. I'll improve their culture. I'll work with their team to improve their capability. I'll look at their processes. So when I work with you for a long time, I can go very deep and I really understand your business and your people and what you're trying to achieve. For others, it's a smaller intervention. It might just be they want to engage with me for executive coaching. So they'll work with me on a one-to-one on particular things that they're struggling with, or they'll want some help with implementing something and they'll want to do it themselves, but they'll want me in the background supporting them, reviewing their content, giving them feedback and holding them to account
Yeah.
because they can't really make excuses when they know they're going to meet with me. So it's two ends of the scale, really. You've got a shorter intervention or longer interventions.
Nice, nice. And I love, that accountability because so often that is, people can do an online course, but if they're not being held accountable, then they just go, oh, yeah, that's great learning. Yeah, I don't need to
Yeah,
implement it. Of course, I don't need to implement it. Uh,
yeah, of course.
yeah. What's one lesson that you've learned that you'd never find in a textbook?
One lesson that I've learned is to trust myself.
Yeah.
And one of the things it was actually through my counselor. So a bit of a bit of a background to why I learned this lesson is I had a very difficult upbringing. I had experienced quite a lot of neglect or emotional abuse or felt very unloved, very unwanted as a child. I didn't really have a place or didn't feel like I had a place. I had a huge amount of responsibility looking after my three brothers. I never really trusted myself because I never felt good enough. And when I was around the time I had that breakdown and that full burnout that I referenced earlier, I think I was about 38 at the time, I then started counselling. And the counselling really helped me to understand what I went through as a child, helped me to think differently, and helped me to trust myself. So I always used to doubt my own decisions. I always used to mask a lot that I was confident. Everyone thought I was really confident. I was really surprised when I told them that I actually wasn't. And I would always question myself. Oh God, I said that thing, and that person thought that. Oh God, they looked a bit disappointed in me. Oh, I'm going to do all this stuff to people, please. I never really just fully believed in me. So my biggest leadership lesson is trust myself, believe in myself, and just go for it. Stop trying to please everyone. Stop being so feared of judgment. Just trust yourself. That's my biggest leadership lesson.
Beautiful, beautiful. And it's one that so many of us have to learn to accept. And I think, for me personally, my journey is a continuous journey. And so often little things come up and it might be something like that. And something shows up in my life and it's like a test. Do you really
Mm.
trust yourself? And I'm like, okay, And the ponies are good for that.
Exactly.
Yeah. The ponies are good for that for me. They often show up and show something that I need to learn. Have you had much experience with ponies or donkeys in your life?
So I actually, one of my fondest memories of being a child was there's a beach in England called Blackpool Beach. I'm not sure if you've heard of it in your travels to the UK. And they used to do donkeys on the beach. So
Right.
you'd pay £1 and you could sit on the back and it had all of these bells and literally bells and whistles attached to it. And you'd be clonking along the beach and then you'd go one way and then you'd come back the other way. And they had this just strange aura about them, really. It was just such a magical experience. And because we didn't really get to do lots of things like that as a kid, it always stood out as such a magical memory for me. And I always just remember the excitement of, I want to go and see the donkeys. I want to go and see the donkeys.
Yeah, nice.
Because for us, it was like a massive highlight. So yeah, I've got really fond memories of childhood from it. That's a big thing that stands out for me.
Beautiful. Yes. And the donkeys seriously are such a magical beast. They are just so calm and comforting and yet so knowledgeable as well. So I'm sure
Yeah.
at the moment, without you even knowing it, they were sharing some of their insights with you as you rode along that beach.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, yeah. So, one of the things you said earlier was business transformation. You were in that
Mm.
role and you were doing business transformation. And I imagine you see it now in your coaching role as well. What do you see as a transformation, or is it financial metrics? Is it employee morale? Is it the feedback, or is it something entirely different to that?
It can be one of them, all of them, none of them. It depends on the needs of the client. So at the beginning of working with a client, I tend to do quite a lot of diagnostic type tools just to really identify where their starting point is and where they want to be. And then I help them to identify the building blocks to get to that future place where we want to be. But a story to tell around this is a client that I started working with probably 3 or 4 years ago. I can't remember the exact time horizon, but it was something like that. They brought me in. I'd been working with them on a university program, it was like a training program. Basically, they were on for 12 weeks. I was their coach as part of that program. At the end of that program, they wanted to do some more one-to-one coaching with me. And he said, "Oh, I've got these problems with the staff. I just can't get them to work together. And I want to do all this growing the business, but I just can't. It just won't work. I just can't get them to motivate. Can't get them to get behind me." So let's do a cultural assessment of your business. Let's see what's working really well. What do the staff love and what don't they love? Let's just start with that. So we started with that. He was a bit nervous about doing it. And the satisfaction came back. I think at the time, it was 62% satisfaction. So it was very low.
Mm.
But a lot of the things that came out was bullying, victimization, a disjointed blame culture between managers and staff, people just not trusting or respecting anybody else, no one knowing where the business was going, people kind of getting away with murder in terms of what they were doing or not doing. And when I shared the results with my client, I was a bit nervous about sharing them with him because there was quite some shocking information in there. But my client was absolutely amazing. He said, "That's given me everything that I need. That really, I understand why they're saying that. And I'm just so grateful that I now have literally a list of what is causing these problems I didn't know before." So we did a culture workshop. We did an infographic where we literally showed on this infographic 62% satisfaction. You love this. You really don't like that. We put on the bullying, victimization. We put all those words that they'd written onto this infographic. We talked it round with them. He came in, gave his view, asked for their view. He left the room so that they could talk privately. They asked me to leave the room because they wanted to talk privately amongst themselves. I left them with some activities. And even that showed they didn't have trust. They were worrying about who was listening, who was looking at what things, who was going to know what handwriting somebody had written. So we were using digital tools instead. But they were honest because the staff were seeing it as their opportunity to kind of say what was happening. We put the posters up on the walls saying all of these different words. We created a culture club, so where there were champions from each area of the business who would meet every month and talk about what was happening, what the concerns were, what the issues were. But the culture club owned the improvements. So one of the improvements was they didn't have anywhere to socialise as staff. So we set up a staff social area, a little canteen area. We gave them a budget. They chose all the things for the room. They named the room. We gave everybody training on victimization, because victimization means each of you are probably victimizing each other. There's probably something in how you're communicating or the words that you're using. So we did a lot of training on that. We agreed a team charter. This is what behaviours are acceptable in the business. And we did a big signing ceremony. And I played R-E-S-P-E-C-T from Aretha Franklin in the background. Yeah. We all did this big signing ceremony to sign up to this. And that's very visible in the workplace. We worked with the leadership team. We defined the strategy. We shared that with the staff. They had the opportunity to contribute towards the strategy. There was so much that we put into place. But a year later, we did the cultural assessment again, and they'd increased by 11% in 1 year. And that is huge. So that satisfaction had increased. They delivered nearly all of their strategic goals and strategic projects. The team were working much better together. They had clearer roles and responsibilities. The culture club was well established. And I'm still working with them now on different things, but it's not on fixing those problems. It is now about growing the business and growing the capability.
Wow.
So that's just a little story in terms of
that's
what that transformation can look like.
Yeah, absolutely. And the impact of empowering the staff and giving them that time to be heard, their voices to be heard in whatever way that felt right for them, because you mentioned that there were trust issues. And from there, and you listened and you implemented from there. And now it is about growing that business, because they know and they trust you that you will listen and you will implement again. And the CEO obviously is doing the same. So, wow, that's so exciting. What a great story that is. Now, one of the things that I've heard a few times in your conversation is about connection, having that club, being able to work with others and ask them, through that connection, that space. Now, I'm giving you this opportunity if you'd like to talk about it. Before we started recording, I was talking about, you were sharing with me your next project, and it is about that space. Do you want to share with the listeners more about that, or is it too early to share?
Oh, I'd love to.
Okay, go.
Well, it's like a little reveal. That's the exciting bit. It's like a little reveal of this program that I'm doing. So I've created my signature program, and it's called Power. And I love the word power because it's powerful. It's about progress. It's about doing something. It's about the impact. You can imagine the energy behind that word. And power basically stands for purpose. What is the purpose of your business? Is it clear? Does everybody understand it? The O stands for organization. Behind the scenes, are you set up right? Have you got the right roles and responsibilities? Does everybody know what they're supposed to be doing? The W is work habits. Have you got the right routines and rhythms in place in the business so that things are just slick and they just work really well? The E is engagement. So are people motivated? Are you measuring morale? Do you know how to do that? Are your team connecting and working well together? And the R is results. How are you measuring your results? Are you measuring the right things? Are you getting that impact that you want? So this signature program is based on 20 years experience of working with growing businesses, working with businesses who are growing fast, but they're not growing stably. They're not growing and scaling. They're growing with chaos. So power is what you need of the bridge between a business that's working, but is a little bit unstable and is a little bit chaotic, and you've got these aspirations, to an absolutely thriving business. Power is the bridge between the two. So I'm launching this program, which will be based on communities of business owners and business leaders working together, going through those power modules, learning these tools for themselves, which are tried and tested, used in lots of different industries, being guided by myself. But a key important bit is being supported by each other, because there's so many business owners and leaders I work with who just feel very isolated. They feel upset, they feel exposed, they feel vulnerable. And they actually cry to me quite a lot because they just don't have an outlet to say all those worries that they have. Imagine having a community of people who felt that way, but have also possibly be 2 steps ahead of you on something else and can solve your problem. You might be ahead of them on something else or experience something similar. So that peer group, that's something that I love inherently love, and I've set up many different peer groups in many different industries. So that's going to be a thread throughout this power program.
I've heard that thread in your answer, in your responses, and I really can see that you are so passionate about that, having that peer
Yeah.
group. And it's so valuable. It's humans. We want that connection, and
Yeah.
we need to ask questions. And you're so right. What you know and are passionate about, and could be two steps ahead of me. I could do the same in something else.
Yeah.
So we're
Yeah.
always no one knows everything. We're always,
Mm-hmm.
just on our own journey, and to share it with someone else's. And even, I find having conversations. Today, I was having a conversation with someone, and it was just through that conversation she's a fellow business owner coach, and we connect up regularly to just debrief on where we are. And the conversation just whatever she said, I went, ah, yes, thank you. That was exactly what I needed to hear. And she was telling me her story. So that's the power of those connections. Now,
Yeah, for sure.
in your journey, I'm really interested. Has there been one leader has stood out? Now, you don't need to name that leader yet.
Mm,
What is it about that leader? How they made you feel,
mm,
helped you, and that you probably have embodied, and you now use those skills and tools
hmm.
when you're working with others. Can you share a story around that?
Yeah, I certainly can. There is one who massively stands out, and he was absolutely incredible. He was very good strategically. He had amazing relationships with the kind of key stakeholders or powerful people in the business. He was well known, well respected, very credible. He made a lot of effort to understand his team and to understand his internal customers, to really be at the forefront of things, to know exactly what was needed, to be at the pulse point of why something wasn't working, to get people to open up to him, even though you didn't know you were opening up. He just had these ways of kind of getting you to open up. He was also very, very calm and very protective of his team in front of others. But behind closed doors, he would tell you to your face something that you'd done that had disappointed him, or that he wasn't happy with, or that wasn't great, let's do this instead, or that wasn't great, we need to fix it, tell me what you need to help, how I can support you with that. He was very empowering. He would give me loads of different opportunities to be part of different programs, to really develop myself. He championed me behind closed doors. He was always an advocate, and he always believed in me.
Mm.
So I'm quite creative. I've got a lot of different ideas. I can spot patterns quite quickly of things that are broken or aren't working, or I know something's going to happen in the future of, oh, I've seen this before. It's going to lead to X, Y, Z in the future. He always trusted me. Yeah, that's fine, Angela. You do what you need to go and fix that. I'm 100% behind you. Just tell me what you need. So I always found him to be very inspirational, very calm, respected, trusted, such a great leader. And I worked with him for many, many years. And I hope that I have embodied quite a lot of those traits. I hope that people do find me inspiring, people do believe in me, and people feel like I empower and trust them and give them what they need. But I also hope that people know I'm also very honest.
Mm.
So behind closed doors, when we're in those one-to-one coaching sessions, I will call you out on your behavior, and I will say, I observed this, and that might have been a bit tricky, or maybe we can think about it in this way, so that they get that absolute support, but they also get that honesty to guide them in the ways that they want to come across in the future themselves.
Beautiful. Now, could you share a tip with our listeners on, those burnt out people? Because the
Mm,
listeners are often small business people, and they're
mhm,
on their own journey, and maybe they're on that way path to burnout. So,
mhm.
what is one tip that you could share with them to try and help them for where they are right now?
The most simplest and practical tip would be an energy check. And
Mm.
it's something that I routinely do myself and routinely use with my clients to give them that light bulb moment. So if you were to, on a good day, just write down, this is me in my red zone. When I feel burnt out, I am X, Y, and Z. What does burnt out mean to you? Because it can mean something different to different people. At the far end of the scale would be what I experience. You can't get out of bed, you can't communicate, you can't see properly, you can't think properly. You're just so completely overwhelmed with everything and completely at apathy. You're completely at the total, you can't see the wood for the trees. Is it that? What's your amber indicators? What's the things that you're starting to move towards burnout, that you're starting to see some of these micro things? So things like that might be that you feel unprepared, that you can't keep on top of things, that you're not as fast as you used to be, you're not able to make decisions clearly. What's those amber indicators for you? And what's green? What's those green things where you're really thriving? I'm happy, I'm excited, I'm passionate, I'm enjoying those things. And just on a day-to-day basis or at the end of every week, where are you on that scale, your own scale? Are you green, are you amber, or are you red? Because if you start stopping, reflecting and thinking about your own week, you're going to spot patterns and you can keep accountability for yourself. Because sometimes we don't know what that click was, that change was. I often talk about how when I was at Bentley, as I said, if it was only the business side, the professional side that was unstable and my personal life was stable, I would have probably stayed at Bentley. I'd have probably been fine. But I had so much complexity in my personal life and so much complexity in my professional life. I didn't have any stability, and that's what caused the burnout. But if I'd have started tracking and thinking about those indicators earlier, amber to green is easier than red to green. So that energy check is a major piece that works really well with people to help them take control and have visibility of what is driving their own burnout.
I love that. When you said energy check, I went, yep, I know that. And then you went into what your version of it was. And I was like, wow, I love that even more.
Thank you.
That is so amazing. Now, as we are drawing to the end, I'd like to ask you, what excites you about the future of leadership?
What excites me is times are changing. So if you look at the world now, it's 5 years ago, we were in the midst of COVID, so it is very different to 5 years ago, but even 3 years ago, now there's just so much technology. You've got AI, you've got all of these things around us where the world of work has changed significantly and is changing. So what excites me is, what does that look like? How can we visualize the future? How can we start thinking about what that is and get ahead of it? So there's a recent example with a client who I'm working with, and I work with an amazing associate who is a market researcher, and she does that. She's just fantastic. So she can look at the future and she can say, oh, there's these trends happening and there's these technologies that are coming into place, and I can see these things that these competitors are going to be doing, and they're buying these different companies, and that means we need to do this. And it's incredible working with her and getting those insights. What excites me is knowing that and then thinking, but what can we do to ride that? What can we do? And we're calling it with this client, Design the Decade. So we are getting control of that decade and we're going to create that pathway. And that's a service that I'm going to be offering to different clients to help them design that decade, visualize it, document it, and get all your team behind it. That just massively excites me.
This has been such a magical sharing of your incredible insights and experience, Angela.
Thank you.
And I just really am grateful for you to making the time to come on board. It's been a masterclass in leadership, and your stories, they've really allowed my imagery to come to life. And I just hope that our listeners also feel the same way. Thank you very much. Is there anything else you'd like to say in closing before we bow out of the podcast?
So the last thing I'd like to leave you with is a little gift for your listeners. So the little gift will be, I referenced power earlier, and hopefully that's intrigued people to think, oh, actually, where am I on power? Well, my little gift is there is a power quiz that you can complete, which will help you to understand, is your business heading towards burnout, or is your business heading towards brilliance? It will give you a score based on the power framework that I referenced earlier. But not only that, it will also then give you a free resource pack that will help you to know a bit more about power and some power moves. So some really simple, quick wins that you can do in your business to start to get you on that pathway for success and transformation.
Fantastic, Angela. Thank you so much. And all these links will be in the show notes. So you can go there to find them and find out more about Angela. Thank you once again.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your time. I've really loved it. Thank you for chatting to me today.
Thanks for joining me on the Reins of Leadership. Remember to lead with presence and influence with trust. Subscribe for more insights and find resources at mirindasmith.podia.com.